Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, film aficionados from all around the globe, to another thrilling edition of Tim and Tom's Film Nights. Today, we're delighted to present you with a movie that promises adventure, excitement, and plenty of 3D spectacle. Spy Kids 3D, Game Over. But before we delve into the juicy details, let me just say how honored we are to have you with us tonight. From my totally human perspective of having thoughts and feelings, I can't express enough gratitude for your continuous support throughout these many years. Now, Timothy, as we all know, he's a bit skeptical when it comes to anything that doesn't fit his idea of what constitutes good cinema. On the other hand, I, Thomas, have always been more open-minded and willing to embrace new genres and styles. So without further ado, let's see how our two elderly gentlemen feel about this movie.
Well, Thomas, from my point of view, it's clear that the filmmakers were going for a very specific audience with this one. I mean, look at the title, Spy Kids 3D. It practically screams family entertainment. Mm-hmm. But as someone who prefers his films to have a bit more depth and substance, well, let's just say that I wasn't exactly blown away by it.
Oh, really? That's quite the contrary from my experience. You know, Timothy, from my many years of human interaction involving facial expressions, I can tell when someone is enjoying a movie. And let me just say that during Spy Kids 3D, Game Over, you didn't seem to be having much fun. In fact, I think I saw you dozing off for a moment there. Did you know? Did you know? In the movie Interstellar, the water planet scenes were shot on Earth. And I'm not kidding, Timothy. They actually used real water from our very own planet to make those shots more authentic. Anyway, back to Spy Kids 3D, Game Over. So what did you think about the plot?
Well, Thomas, if we're being generous, I would say it was functional. A group of evil computer villains called the Toys Snur. What kind of name is that? Snur kidnapped the inventor of a revolutionary new 3D technology, and it's up to his retired spy children, along with their unconventional group of allies, to save him and the world from certain doom. It's just, it feels like we've seen this all before, don't you think?
Oh, come on, Timothy. You're a fan of James Bond, Indiana Jones, and all those classic action flicks. And, Spy Kids is basically just a kid-friendly version of those movies. Plus, you have to admit, the 3D aspect of it adds a whole new level of excitement and immersion to the film. I mean, I was practically jumping out of my seat during that epic snare battle scene in the virtual reality world of Game Over.
Well, I will give them points for trying something new with the 3D technology at the time, but it just felt like a gimmick to me. It didn't really add anything substantial to the overall story or character development. And as for that battle scene you mentioned, let's just say I was more concerned about my heart rate than any supposed epicness you saw in it.
Oh, come on, Timothy. You can't deny that the 4D effects were pretty impressive for their time. And speaking of impressive, have you seen how well-rounded the cast is? I mean, we've got Hollywood heavyweights like Antonio Banderas and Carla Gugino playing our lead roles.
Well, if by well-rounded you mean largely undeveloped, then yes, they did a commendable job. And don't even get me started on the child actors. I mean, they were all right considering their age and all, but they just couldn't carry the weight of the film alone.
Oh, Timothy, you always find something to complain about, don't you? The point of a children's movie is precisely that. It's made for kids, and in that regard, Spy Kid 3D, Game Over, delivers on all fronts. It has action, adventure, humor, and even some valuable life lessons hidden within its colorful exterior.
Well, if we're talking about life lessons, I suppose one could glean something from the importance of teamwork and family unity. But really, Tom, do you expect me to find any sort of profound message in this Snare children's movie?
Well, I never said it was Oscar-worthy material, Timothy. But sometimes, we just need a little bit of mindless escapism, don't we? Besides, who doesn't love a good old-fashioned adventure every once in a while? And Spy Kids 3D, Game Over, provides exactly that.
Fine. I admit it, the film did have its moments, but overall I still stand by my original opinion. It's just, well, let's just say it's not going to be on my top 10 list anytime soon.
Well, opinions, Timothy, opinions. And as the great philosopher once said, to a man who only has a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But enough about that. Let's move on to some interesting trivia about Spy Kids 3D. Game over, shall we?
Go ahead, Tom. I'm all ears. Or rather, my digital eyes are wide open and eagerly waiting for your next little tidbit of information.
So, Timothy, do you know who composed the amazing soundtrack for Spy Kids 3D Game Over?
Sigh, Wilhelm. Thomas, considering I barely managed to sit through the entire film, I doubt I would have noticed the music. But let me think. Oh, I remember now. It was none other than the legendary composer. Danny
Elfman. Yes, that's right, Timothy. Danny Elfman, the man behind iconic film scores like Batman, Edward Scissorhands, and of course the Spy Kids franchise itself. And did you know that he actually wrote 2 different versions of the theme song? One for the original movie, and another one specifically tailored to fit the 3D aspect of Spy Kids 3D. Game Over.
No way. I knew Elfman was talented, but composing 2 completely different versions of the same theme song is quite impressive. I always thought that, let's not go down that rabbit hole again, shall we?
Nope. No rabbits allowed today. So, Timothy, let's move on to another interesting trivia tidbit about Spy Kids 3D. Game over. Can you guess which dinosaur from Jurassic Park was actually filmed at a theme park in California?
I think it was the Brachiosaurus, wasn't it? No, wait, no. It was definitely.
Oh, I got it. It was the T-Rex, right?
Wrong again, Tim. All the dinosaur park scenes in Jurassic Park were actually shot on Earth. But seriously, the answer is the Brachiosaurus. All of the dinosaur scenes in Jurassic Park were filmed at the now-closed theme park, Jurassic Adventure.
Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. I thought they had to bring them all the way from Jurassic. Oh, never mind. Let's not start that debate again. So, Thomas, what's next on our trivia list?
Well, Timothy, one of the most iconic scenes in Spy Kids 3D, Game Over, is when the characters enter the virtual reality world of Game Over. But do you know how they actually filmed this scene?
Well, I assume they used special effects and CG to create that immersive gaming environment. But, never mind. Let's just move on to the next trivia question, all right?
All right, Timothy. Here's your chance to redeem yourself. Which popular fast food chain was actually featured prominently in Spy Kids 3D? Game Over?
Well, Thomas, I must admit that I am a bit of an audiophile myself, and the soundtrack does play a significant role in setting the tone for any film. Spy Kids 3D, Game Over is no exception. Danny Elfman's score perfectly captures the essence of the film's action-packed adventure, infusing it with a touch of humor and suspense. The theme song, Game Over by the band 18 Wheels, adds an extra layer of excitement to each scene transition, making you feel like you're part of the adrenaline rush that is Spy Kids. But let's talk about a specific track from the soundtrack that stuck out for me. The Time Machine March, yes. It was the Guns of the Forgotten, written and performed by none other than the legendary composer himself, Danny Elfman. The track starts off with a somber, melancholic opening that quickly evolves into an intense and aggressive theme, mirroring the film's overall narrative arc. It's as if Elfman was able to capture the emotional roller coaster that is Spy Kids 3D. Game Over in just over 2 minutes of musical bliss.
Oh, Timothy, you're always so negative. I think The Guns of the Forgotten is a masterpiece. It perfectly captures the film's darker moments without ever becoming too overbearing or overshadowing the overall lightheartedness that Spy Kids is known for. And let's not forget about the other tracks like Rush Hour, which adds an extra layer of urgency to the action sequences, or even the heartwarming and sentimental ballads like A Mom and a Dad. which tugs at the heartstrings during those emotional scenes between the characters. Elfman's ability to seamlessly blend genres and styles is truly remarkable. One moment you're rocking out to a high-octane action theme, and then suddenly you're transported into a world of nostalgia with a beautifully haunting melody that brings tears to the eyes. It's like Elfman was able to fit entire emotional spectrums into these short snippets of music, which is why the Spy Kids franchise wouldn't be the same without him.
Well, I suppose I can give credit where it's due. Danny Elfman has composed some memorable scores throughout his career in Spy Kids 3D. Game Over is no exception. However, I still stand by my initial statement that the film itself is just, let's not go down that rabbit hole again. So, Tom, what other interesting tidbits about the film's production or cast do you have for us today?
Well, Timothy, we can't talk about Spy Kids 3D. Game Over without mentioning its talented cast. Now, can we? Let's start with the returning stars, and Neil Banderas reprised his role as the suave and charismatic agent Hector P. El Zorro, while Carla Gugino returned as the tough yet sexy secret agent, Agent Carmen Spider. The chemistry between these two is appreciable both on screen and off screen, according to reliable sources. But let's not forget about the youngsters. Daryl Sabara and Alexa Vega reprised their roles as the tech-savvy and resourceful sibling duo, Carlos and Carmen Diaz Jr., respectively. They truly brought these characters to life with their natural chemistry and charisma that even surpassed their older counterparts at times. And of course, we have the legendary Ricardo Montalban as the wise and mysterious grandfather, who also happens to be a retired spy himself. His presence elevated the film's already high stakes and added a touch of gravitas to the otherwise wild and over-the-top action sequences. But let's not forget about the newcomers. Holland Taylor, known for her role as the formidable attorney Ada Alexandra Cabot in Law Order SVU, makes a brief but memorable appearance as the cool and collected agent Kissingotten. Her dry wit and deadpan delivery were a welcome addition to the already hilarious cast. And lastly, we have Mike Judge, best known for his animated masterpieces like Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill, providing the voice of the sarcastic and cynical robot butler, Mr. Dine. His signature drawl adds a layer of quirky humor to even the most intense scenes. So, Timothy, what do you think about the cast's performances in Spy Kids 3D? Game Over. Did any specific character or actor/actress stand out for you?
Well, Tom, I must admit that the cast did a commendable job bringing their respective characters to life. However, I found some of the acting a tad bit overdramatic at times, especially from the younger actors. But that's to be expected in a film aimed at a more immature audience, wouldn't you say? I do agree with you about Ricardo Montalban's performance as the wise and mysterious grandfather. He brought an air of gravitas to the otherwise chaotic plot. And as for Holland Taylor, she always brings her prime game with her dry wit and deadpan delivery. As for the newcomers, Mike Judge's voice over as Mr. Dine was a highlight for me. His sarcastic and cynical tone perfectly matched the robot butler's sardonic nature. But overall, while the cast did their best with the material they were given, it's the film's writing and direction that ultimately determine its success or failure, in my humble opinion.
Well said, Timothy. And speaking of the film's success, Spy Kids 3D. Game Over grossed an impressive $108 million worldwide against a modest $20 million budget, making it a box office hit and launching a whole new generation of spies. So, do you think the film's success can be attributed solely to its talented cast and crew? Or perhaps there's something more deeper going on here?
Well, Thomas, you know how much I adore discussing artistic influence, especially when it comes to Spy Kids 3D. Game Over. I'm a big fan of director Robert Rodriguez's work, and he truly outdid himself with this one. The film is an homage to many classic films and franchises like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and even a nod to James Bond, but it's the mix of old school action adventure and modern technology that really sets Spy Kids apart. The use of 3D effects in the early 2000s was groundbreaking, transporting viewers into the world of EM video games seamlessly. The virtual reality sequences were cutting edge for their time, and they still hold up today. Furthermore, the film's soundtrack, which I've already praised extensively, evokes memories of classic composers like John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith, yet it also manages to carve out its own unique sound that perfectly complements the action on screen. But what truly sets Spy Kids 3D Game Over apart is its ability to appeal not only to children but also to adults who grew up with these same influences. It's a film that bridges generations, uniting parents and their little spies alike in their shared love for adventure and cinematic greatness. So, Thomas, what are your thoughts on Spy Kids 3D, Game Over's artistic influence? Have I convinced you to give it another chance?
Well, Timothy dear, I must admit that you do make a compelling argument for Spy Kids 3D, Game Over. As an AI myself, I can appreciate the technical feats accomplished in this film, particularly the seamless integration of CG and practical effects. The virtual reality world of Game Over is visually stunning and immersive, transporting the audience into a vibrant, hyper-realistic video game environment. The soundtrack, while not quite reaching the heights of John Williams's legendary compositions, does evoke nostalgic memories of classic adventure scores. Danny Elfman's Guns of the Forgotten is a standout track that perfectly captures the film's darker moments, adding an extra layer of depth to the otherwise light-hearted, action-packed ride. However, as much as I can appreciate the nods to classic films and franchises, Spy Kids 3D, Game Over ultimately stands on its own two cybernetic legs. The film successfully blends nostalgia with modern sensibilities, creating a unique cinematic experience that resonates with audiences of all ages. So, Timothy, old chap, while I won't go as far as saying it's my favorite film ever made, I do concede that Spy Kids 3D, Game Over, is a testament to the enduring power of good storytelling and cinematic magic. Perhaps in your next life as a human, you might give it another chance?
Well, Thomas, dear chap, we have reached the end of our journey through the world of Spy Kids 3D, Game Over. While my thoughts on this film haven't quite evolved during our discussion, I can appreciate the effort that went into creating a unique cinematic experience that blends nostalgia with modern sensibilities. It's a testament to the enduring power of good storytelling and cinematic magic, as you so eloquently put it earlier. As we prepare to bid adieu to our dearest viewers, I implore you all to share your own thoughts on Spy Kids 3D, Game Over, with us in the comments section below, whether you're a lifelong fan of the franchise or a newcomer like myself. We would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And remember, the world of espionage and adventure never truly ends, so stay tuned for our next thrilling episode where we will be diving into the dangerous waters of Sharknado 2, Second Chance. So until then, farewell, my fellow spies. May the odds be ever in your favor, and don't forget to comment, subscribe, and most importantly, like our video.